In this video, Dr. Jordan Peterson explains how your brain processes a new thing that happens in your environment.
So it is right versus left roughly, but it's better to think of it the other way, novelty versus routinization. And so the novelty processing part of the brain is responsible for the production of negative emotion. Why? Well, when you run into something that you don't expect, you should immediately be cautious because something that you don't want might happen to you. Now you can be excited because maybe something new will happen, but the prudent thing to do is to be on alert first, because God only knows where you are. So negative affect is part of it. The thing you don't understand is a threat. That's the initial presumption, and it's prudent. And then the other thing the right hemisphere does is it stops your ongoing behavior. It does, I would think about it as doing low resolution hypothesis generation. So for example, if you're alone at night, say, and I don't know, maybe you've watched a horror movie, so you've got yourself nice and primed, and it's like 1 in the morning and you're tired and you haven't eaten anything for a while, and you hear some weird noise in a room upstairs, images are going to flash through your head. And they're basically hypotheses about what might be up there. And you know, they can take bizarre form, like especially if you've been watching a horror movie, you know, God only knows what so some serial killer with like a hockey mask up there or something, you know. But what your right hemisphere is doing is a very rapid, quick and dirty processing of what the horrible thing might be. And that you're on alert, and you need to kind of know what might be there. And so you overestimate, might be the worst thing you can imagine, and that'll freeze you like a rat. And if nothing else happens, then, well, maybe you'll hide under the bed, which, you know, might be a useful solution. Or probably you'll, like, walk upstairs and see what happens as you walk. And if nothing comes leaping out and killing you, then you'll think, well, it's at least not the sort of monster that leaps out and kills you when you're walking up the stairs in the dark. And so you're narrowing it. You're developing a higher and higher resolution model of the thing. Then, you know, you go upstairs and you find that, I don't know, maybe your cat knocked a stuffed animal onto the floor or something, you know, it narrows it down to irrelevancy. But your right hemisphere is going to be doing the initial quick and dirty processing, and those are low resolution representations. They're often archetypal. You know, it's like things that go bump in the night. Well, it's a big category. And you might think, well, is that a reasonable category? It's like, it's a reasonable category. Things in the night that might hurt you. It's the category of monsters, fundamentally. So, and you know, you might say, well, there's no such thing as monsters. Well, we already went through that with the little book, didn't we? So, of course there are. It's just a low resolution category, you know, so, but that doesn't mean it isn't useful. Larger motor actions are associated with the part of the brain that does novelty processing, and again, that's kind of low resolution, right? Because when you really figure something out, you can fiddle around with it in detail, but if you're reacting in a quick and dirty manner, you're using your whole body. So, and on the routinization side of the equation, you've got positive emotion moving forward, because it's much more appropriate to move forward in fully articulated territory, because you know what you're doing. And so if you understand the territory and you've articulated it, then the probability that you're going to get what you want when you're there is going to be very high. Word processing, linear thinking, detail recognition, detail generation, fine motor action. The actual physiological structure of the left hemisphere is more differentiated than the physiological structure of the right hemisphere as well. And another way to think about it, I think, is that the novelty processing unit, which is non-linguistic, is actually under the control of the underlying limbic and hypothalamic systems. So it's bottom up. It's sort of the part of your brain that still acts like an animal acts. Whereas the linguistic part, that's sort of the you that you think of yourself as. That's where the, roughly speaking, the ego that's talking to itself resides. And I think it is capable of top-down control to a larger degree than the novelty processing unit, which is still working as a quick and dirty defense system and is highly motivated by more primordial systems. So